Hello, welcome to Culture Road, a show where we discuss a lot of many issues from a cultural and historical point of view and ecological point of view. It's interesting that we're coming today, and Phil, you are with the kids who are engaged in basketball, right? Is it basketball or baseball? And the interesting thing about that, I wanted to tie it into what's going on. Do they have baseball in the Olympics? Because that's one of the things we're going to be discussing today. It's that season, but I don't feel it. I don't even feel it. I don't even feel that the Olympics are going on. So anyway, hi, is everybody? Angela and Phil.
Doing good.
Great, thank you.
And so because of the Olympics, I'm just forgetting now, what is the Olympic spirit? I used to know about it. It was about competitive spirit and being good to one another, grace, respect, and all those kind of things. And from what we've seen, I don't know, you guys, are you seeing any kind of respect that we're giving to Olympic people, or are those athletes respecting, their competitors or something like that? Given what we've heard about Simone Biles and everybody else.
I think respect has gone out of the window with society, period. It has nothing to do with the Olympics. It has nothing to do with anyone special. I think that it has completely died, killed itself, been resurrected and shot itself again, because no one understands that concept at all anymore. And what's going on with some of the Olympians, that people just feel the need to attack everybody behind a computer screen. I'm sure if it was face to face, it might be a little bit differently, but behind a computer screen, everybody is ballsy.
I think they should have an Olympic game on just being vituperative on the computer. I mean, oh, what is going on is
men's 100-meter trolling, yeah.
You'll find competitors, we already have, eating competition. So I think you can easily get that. But it's just really vile. It's vile, Phil.
Wait, George, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, fill me in. I mean, I haven't been following it that closely, but have there been instances of actual poor sportsmanship, or are we just talking about, online commentary about the athletes?
It's all of that. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
This Olympic was supposed to be last year. They were postponed because of the virus, the pandemic. Right. And so even in Japan, where the Olympics are going on, people were initially not for it. They were against it. But now, of course, once the games start, let the games begin. Once the games start, everybody else is now supposed to be all for it. So what happened this time is that we had NBC that has paid a lot of money to broadcast this, as they always do. They made sure that Simone Biles was the face of the Olympics, because Simone Biles had been doing things that nobody else had been doing. The gymnastics, to me, is really, really, of course, the gymnastics is a very big part of the Olympics, going back to the Greek times. But it is also a very dangerous game, as dangerous as, those bikers, the BMX. So what happened is that everybody thought that Simone Biles was going to get everything, was going to do some of the most acrobatic moves that nobody has ever seen. But then when it came to it, and she had been doing a lot, when it came to it, she backed out. She kind of said that she had problems. She had mental problems. There's something called the tweeties, or is it a twisties? So a twisties is this thing that you lose balance, or your mental balance, and you can't even know where you are. And the problem with that is that if you are somersaulting, for example, you don't know how you're going to land. You can easily land bad and break a limb. And so she decided to back off and let alternates. Usually they have alternates, 2 alternates per team to take to join and go for it. And she actually did. So the conservatives, mostly because they are the conservatives, and the majority of them are men, except a few women, joined in to criticize Biles, and of course, before that, to criticize Naomi Osaka. And one of those was Piers Morgan. He's such a weirdo, Piers Morgan. He called her vile names, not a competitor, somebody who should not. The conservatives said that she was. It was against the country. She was
unpatriotic.
Unpatriotic.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the background.
And even the Attorney General in Texas came out and said something about that.
Yes.
This is Texas, but we're not surprised.
So basically, it moved from being a sport, but now it is a cultural war for no reason. Everything is a cultural war in this country these days. So what do you have to say about that?
The Olympians have been fine. The athletes have been supporting one another as much as they can. It's just the folks here in the States, and they have a lot to complain about. But I think it's rather interesting because in the process of all this happening, it recently came out, like I think maybe about a day or 2 ago, that the twisties and stuff was happening with her. She was feeling like kind of like out of body and stuff, but her aunt died while she's over there in Tokyo. So she's having a lot of mental stuff. Her family is grieving and she's unable to get back there to support them. She's has a lot of pressure to be the face of the United States while in Tokyo. So yeah, there's a lot of mental stuff, pressure and everything on her. But I think it was very it showed leadership of her to step back and hand it over to her alternative person, because that's what teamwork is about. She's not the only one that's holding up this effort. There is a team effort, and she showed great leadership in doing that. So that's my thought.
There's something good about letting her alternate person to do it. In fact, her name is Sunny Lee, right? She's from Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And is it Minnesota or I
believe it's Minnesota. I think it's Minnesota.
Yeah, and she's the first home to be in the U.S. team and even to medal, and that was a big good thing that happened for her family. And there was a party going on in Minnesota about all that, and so out of Biles, basically stepping back, there's something that else that happened, and that's a younger athlete who will, for the next 5-6 years, be even the face of the U.S. Gymnastics team. So I think for us who have never been in sports, a lot of people have never been in sports, and we keep on running our mouths. We keep on saying things that are really not good. We need to step back. We need to take a page from Osaka and from Biles, because this is connected to mental health. Is it not?
Yeah. I think, Phil, with you being a dad and being there with your children and on the teams and seeing what's happening, what's your take on, if a child, not because Biles is much older now, but with children feeling like I can't do it and don't have the confidence, and it's a little bit more than just having the confidence. What's your take on from a parent's perspective?
Exactly.
It's true that sports are every bit as maybe it's not 50-50, but a big component of it is mental. Okay, people emphasize the physical and they don't really think about the mental as much. That's one thing that I kind of had read, but being a sports dad for a while has kind of like really hit it home to me that there'll be times when maybe, you know, whatever is going on in your life, whatever pressure you're feeling might affect the way you perform on the field. Sometimes the way you've previously performed on the field is going to affect the way you are the next time. Like there's an expression in baseball, like don't take your at-bats into the field with you. In other words, if you just struck out, you know, don't go out there and focus on your fielding when you're in the field, because if you don't, then, you know, your fielding, your defense will suffer as well. So yeah, it is very, very true that there is a strong mental component. And I take my hat off to Biles and Osaka for having the courage to come out and do this and say, listen, I need a break. I mean, that's all, that my mental health is more important than this competition. I would also add that when you're talking about the Olympics, there's always been this kind of double standard. I think ever since Baron de Coubertin revived the ancient Greek Olympics in 1896. And the ideal was always like, you know, this is an international competition, but it's an alternative to war. You know, it's kind of a show of friendly competition in the spirit of brotherhood and all that. But right from the start, or at least early on, there has been a political component. I mean, the fact that there have been years when the Olympics were canceled, like in 1940 because
1982.
of World War II. Right, that kind of thing, right. And there's always this undertone that, particularly in this country, because, you know, we have one of the biggest Olympic programs, so we feel the athletes in the most sports. And of course, there's always this kind of like, yeah, it's, you know, it's friendly competition, but boy, we sure want to beat the Chinese, etc. That's all there.
It usually you want to be the Russians. These days, the Chinese.
Well, yeah, it was the Russians. Now the Chinese are the new boogeymen. So now it's beat the Chinese. Right. You know, and listen, the Chinese are the same way. Let's face it. You know, this. You know, we're going to stick it to America. Blah 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 blah. So we all know that it's there. So I would the most I could say for some of Biles's right-wing critics, you know, is that maybe, you know, they're just so caught up in this nationalistic fervor. Like it wasn't something about Biles personally, it was just kind of like, hey, you know, come on, we're out there to beat those damn Chinese, and you're like, you know, come on, you know, you're hurting the cause, and it's stupid, but it's kind of, you know, this is what you get because it's, as one of you said before, everything is competition right now, and that kind of, there's always this tension in the Olympics, and there are times when the competition aspect, you know, really outweighs the friendly brotherhood, etc. Aspect, and this is one of those times, unfortunately.
Actually, that's interesting, but I would say that it is more cultural than even competition, and the reason is that I don't think I agree with you. They're not really criticizing Biles. She's just, to them, a boogeyman or a boogie woman. What they're trying to do is to politicize the event, because the thing is they're not actually supporting American team. The conservatives are not supporting the American team. In fact, they're supporting their opponent, their competitors, not their opponents. They want them to fail, because if they fail, it reflects on the liberals. That's what it is. I don't know how that comes to be, because I can't put those two together. That a failure of an American team is a failure of liberalism. And I don't need to tell you right now, I mean, even though the majority of the marquee games, the US is not doing very well in those. There are so many other games that the US is doing very well on, and they have 91 medals right now, far, far surpassing, you know, any other team. I think China is the second with 74. So that's quite a big. So it is more cultural.
And not only that, you have some of the conservatives and even Trump going on camera telling them to boo the American athletes. So it has nothing to do with Biles. It's not, you know, anything personal. I think there's just, speaking of mental health, there's a lot of mental health issues that they need to go sit on a couch and talk about, because it's like they're going back and forth. It's so much sway in their politics and their ideals that they in my opinion, don't stand for anything. They just like chaos. They'll stand for chaos, but anything else, whoever is the highest bidder, whoever is the pick of the day for the moment, that's where they at.
Well, I think it's this kind of own the libs mentality that's also being reflected in some of the the COVID outbreaks in states like Texas and Florida. It's like it's like getting sick, not getting sick is not as important as sticking it to the the liberal Democrats who are insisting on vaccinations and masks, that kind of thing. But George, I want to get back to what you said. I'm not clear exactly how you see there's some kind of liberal bias in the Olympics. I mean, sports is still considered one of the more conservative aspects of American society. So what do you mean exactly?
That actually is very ironical, because what I mean is that the country is divided. And everything has to be divided. Everything has to be this or that. Either you're with me or against me, including the Olympics. And so instead of having a competitive spirit, and within that competitive spirit, you have typically support your team, right? And we have a divide in the country such that the American team is not even representing the entire nation. It is representing perceptively in many some people's eyes. It's representing the prevailing administration. And if it is a liberal administration, that is what it is. Oh. So it is not, it is like a foreign policy being fought from a domestic perspective. So I am not saying that it should be about liberalism or conservatism. It is that there's some people in this country think just because the American team is going to compete at a time when liberals have control of the White House and perhaps Congress, that this reflects good on them. I don't see that, because there are so many things. And I hate to be this judgmental, to be this partisan, because I don't think there is anything partisanship with regards to sports. In fact, as you say, the great majority of sportsmanship is about conservatism. It's about, people who are very strict with their lives. And so there is a kind of an irony when we start to politicize things that typically are not supposed to be political. But this is the world we live in right now. It is the world where, what is that woman, Babbitt, is now, those who stormed the building.
Ashley Babbitt, yeah.
Ashley Babbitt, and those who stormed, they are now the political prisoners.
They're martyrs, yeah.
No, not political prisoners.
Yeah.
They are Mandela, yeah.
What is happening? Like, seriously. I think that people are just wanting something to criticize, wanting every moment to find something to talk about. But even with that, no one is getting up and actually doing anything.
Yes.
Because not only are they targeting Biles, they're targeting the soccer woman, Megan Rapinoe. I think
Megan Rapinoe, yeah. Because she's targeting
her. They're criticizing, and it was a big scandal before the American team even went over to Tokyo. But one of the swimmers is involved in this sexual scandal, and his teammates didn't want him to come over there. And his teammates are like keeping themselves distant and even wearing a pink mask, against him, because he has all these allegations that are open against women, and all this stuff has come out. So it's just so much stuff that's going on. And I think that the conservatives are trying to keep the attention off of what's happening, the laws that are being enacted and put out. So they're just focusing on, let me talk about Megan Rapinoe's hair. Let me talk about Biles not being patriotic. It's just so much, because the state side in DC, they're talking about with the the trial, not a trial, but they're having the officers who was involved in January 6th are talking about and discussing. They don't want to get out and talk about that.
Right,
so they want to keep the focus on what the Olympians are not doing. So it's really crazy.
Well, by the same token, you have the, it's been suggested that part of this culture war obsession over the last couple of months has also been because it's very hard for them to attack Biden directly over what he's doing. I mean, you don't want to get a vaccination, fine, but you can't necessarily attack him just for getting more people vaccinated. You can't attack him for getting more money to people and pushing these infrastructure programs. These are popular programs. So you have to go off on these tangents. And, for the first couple of months, it was all about, Mr. Potato Head has been degendered and Dr. Seuss is being taken off the bookshelves, and that didn't have too many legs. So now they're going after, now the Olympics and so forth. And I think it's, that's part of it. But I will say something else. I think it's interesting that, there's no way to determine this, but I would have to think that some of the venom being directed at Biles is because she's a woman of color. I mean, I don't think you can get around that any more than it's more obvious with Rapinoe that, she's an out lesbian. And there is a long tradition, unfortunately, of this in the Olympics, that American minority athletes getting this kind of back of the hand or you go back to Jim Thorpe, a full-blooded American Indian being stripped of his medals that he won in the 1912 Olympics because, he played amateur. He played, I think, in a semi-pro baseball league for a couple of months or something. And so, no, he's a professional. These athletes, these are supposed to be amateur athletes. I think eventually they returned to him just before he died or something like that. Then you had Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics, who was kind of, I forget what it was exactly, but the American Olympic Committee kind of punished him in some way for some relatively minor infraction. Or in 1968, when the two American sprinters, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, stood on the stand with the fist raised in the Black Power salute, and they were again, they were chastised and punished. There's this undertone that the minority athlete is supposed to be especially grateful and should not do anything controversial whatsoever. You should be damn happy that we let you on this team and we let you compete for this great country. And if you demonstrate, anything less than total patriotism, we're going to come down on you. And I do think that this is another example of that, some of the reaction to Simone Biles.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Phil, because even as you put the different names that you put out there, and I'm sure that there are so many more to add on to that, but it comes down to, I think, because even going back to what was happening with Jesse Owens, and that was a time Hitler was like, the white race, we are very powerful, we're going to win this and all that. And then he got showed up by this Black American athlete. He was not happy about that. So it comes down to the fact of looking at the Black individual as less than human, inferior, and for them to go to, because when you look at a lot of the sports, like, the runners, even tennis, you have a wide setup of more Black athletes in these sports that were predominantly white, high class white, like especially tennis. You did not see Black folks playing that back in the day. It was more for the elite, even with golf and different things like that. So for them now to be coming and taking over these sports, there's anger about that. There's, frustration with that. But what kind of baffles me, which is very confusing, is as much as they talk about them representing the United States and the criticism that is now widely on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and all that other stuff, the folks that come and attack these Americans, it shows like one moment you're okay with Americans, but if they happen to be Black Americans, then we have a problem. And that is putting, as much as Americans want to, talk about this patriotism and, show this nationalism and everything to the face of the world, they're putting all their business out on the streets really right now. And it's not looking good. and you have the countries such as China, Russia, and all these other countries that are looking back on us and really probably not scratching their head, just laughing at us for so many different reasons. But it puts America in a bad light. It puts America to the face of the world, showing that if you are a white American, your words count, your actions count. But if you happen to be a Black American, then there is nothing else that we have for you.
I think I don't know. That's a good point. I'm trying to think that maybe the issue is not conservatives the issue is not even just white, and although that has been the case for since the founding of the nation. But there is a strand of Americans who have nothing but they're following Trump. Now, I don't think they are conservatives. I think there is a strand of the Republican Party that now is supportive, so much supportive of Russia or Vladimir, and anything that is not American. And so what they're trying to show is so much about themselves and not so much about what this country is all about. And I think their time is over. I think so, from last year. I'm not so sure that Trump is coming back. It seems to me that they're going to be so fighting among themselves. And the tragedy is that they're being supported, or at least they're given, the legs by some media houses. And I think the United States should do what Australia is doing. So last week, there is the Sky Australia, which is part of the Fox network that has been used to tear this country apart. They were fined. Australia fined them. It's a TV that is full of these conservative talk shows, but they're not conservatives. They're basically, bomb throwers. The same way you find Hannity and all the rest of the Fox News. So the Fox has to be responsible for a lot of these things because they're giving aid and comfort to a strand of politics that is very divisive and that is destructive, that will tear this country apart. This guy, Murdoch, has to be very, very careful. We go back to journalism. He's messing up with journalism. He's already done a lot to discredit American journalism.
But who's going to be the one that is going to call him to the rug? We are realizing more than anything, and not that we were unaware of this, but money is power. We know that. So who's going to be the one that calls him to the table? That we know that a lot of these very powerful entertainment industry, the folks that own these stations, they're the ones that are going and lobbying for certain things. They're going and talking to the politicians, and they have their hands in the politician's pocket and, passing gifts and stuff on them. So who's going to be the one that pull the rug from under them? It's
a tough call. I think that, maybe the White House should start doing that. I like what Biden did yesterday when he told, those governors who are trying to stop people from wearing masks to get out of the way.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
No, finish, George, please.
No, I think I wanted to bring you into that because Biden up now has not been very strong on condemnation of this Republican outliers who are actually doing everything they can to limit his agenda.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, calling out people like DeSantis and Abbott is a good thing. And yeah, I'm waiting for the day when, a Democratic president will come out and call out Murdoch by name and just say, this guy puts out lies for money. And that's what he's been doing for years. But, there's always a certain timidity, and you don't want to be accused of, advocating censorship and yada, yada. And I don't know. I mean, but I think that, the larger issue, I mean, look, anything that could be legally done to Murdoch, boycotts, whatever, I'm in favor of that. He's a vile, disgusting old man. And really, frankly, the sooner he dies, the better, even though he has a son who's going to be just as bad when he takes over.
Just as bad.
Right.
Lachlan, yes.
Yes.
But, I think I always say that, it's very easy to like blame the people who are running the media show or the political show here. But the fact is, they have an audience. And what's difficult is to say, like, okay, if they were removed tomorrow, well, with this audience, the audience would not suddenly dissipate. They'd find another hero, somebody else to tell them what they want to hear. I was in Florida actually about 2 weeks ago. On another
that's the epicenter. That's not the epicenter of the virus.
That's, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it's funny because, yeah, absolutely no one is walking around there with a mask. I don't think I saw anyone, not in the hotel where we stayed, not in, nowhere. I mean,
No.
not restaurants, nothing. I don't even think maybe there were one or two signs about, if you haven't been vaccinated, wear a mask, which, everyone completely ignored. And I have been vaccinated, and I would say, just as an aside, that when I came back for a couple of days, I felt like I maybe had mild symptoms that I thought maybe I caught from one of those idiots down there. But be that as it may, I really got a sense of what a cultural thing it is down there. Like, I'll tell you two stories. My son and I were shopping at a Walmart, just picking up a few items, and we come out in the parking lot, and in the space next to us, a handicapped space, by the way, the guy had a Confederate flag decal on his back windshield, the stars and bars, and the words "Proud Caucasian." Okay? That's right, exactly. I was looking for, the gun rack on the side of but I didn't see it there. No, it was not a pickup truck. It was a Ford Escalade, actually. So there you are. So this is a person with a disability, and who had enough money to buy an Escalade, and yet he still had these sentiments. And then later on, I was in traffic, and I could read the bumper of the guy in front of me, and he had two stickers. On the right, it said, "My gun is not a threat unless you are." And on the left, the bumper sticker said, "Trump DeSantis 2024, make America Florida." So,
Oh my God. Oh my Lord.
my point is that the reason that people like Trump and DeSantis can get away with this lunacy is that there is this audience that wants to hear it. And I think it's important for us just to say, like, we can oppose everything they stand for, everything Fox stands for in any way that we can. But let's always remember that it's not like evil Fox put these ideas in the people's heads. It's just that they amplify something that these people are already feeling, the sense of alienation of whatever. And I'm not saying this out of sympathy for them. I'm saying that, if you think that liberals are trying to take your guns, and if you think that white people are an endangered species, the only thing that Trump or Hannity or Carlson or DeSantis have done is to kind of say back to you, "You're right. I agree with you, and here's why." But the question is why they already believe this nonsense in the first place.
Well, I mean, to me, I think the human mind is one that can be more mediated. It can be more molded. The human mind is very, very susceptible to all kinds of propaganda. And I think this much has been a lot of propaganda. The interesting thing is that the propaganda is not geared towards, but these people, the leaders of the propaganda are not some people who just want to go to war. First of all, they won't survive war at the first battle. They are in it for the money. And they're not telling these people.
Yeah.
Because Trump just got $100 million by raising money through lies. And everybody else is trying to do the same thing, raising money. And if you have somebody, and I believe they're so smart, that somebody is raising money off their anger, I just can't believe it. Somebody raising money off their anger, and they're ready to give that money because they're being told what they want to hear. But what they want to hear is something they've been fed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had this sentiment for many, many years, since perhaps the founding of the country. But how come it never went well, save for many, many years? But at least in the last 40 years, there has been some semblance of sanity, whereby you can go outside, you can go through the reservation, but you don't do things that have been done in the last 1 year. To me, Trump has given oxygen to a lot of things that never used to be done or said, and he did it for the purpose of getting money.
Well, everything that he's done has been about getting money. I mean, that's been his.
That's who Trump is.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is transactional with him. We know that. But you're right, George. Things have escalated. Even before he got elected. And I think the obvious explanation for that is that, things that these people don't like, trends and social changes, have kind of escalated to a point where they really are reacting, some of them, like, a trapped animal, basically getting more vicious as the their opponents are closing in, or that's the sense that they have. Oh, we have a black president now. We have, these athletes, tennis, golfers, Olympians. Okay, they not only don't look like me, but they're speaking out. Again, this idea that they're not acting all grateful and patriotic. Constant, other things, the gay rights movement, now the transgender movement, and on and on and on. Things they do not recognize, things that scare the hell out of them. I always go back to what Obama said: change is scary. He made an attempt to kind of at least explain the people who hated him, but it not that anybody was really listening. But that's the fact. And again, the question is, what do you do about it? Do you say, well, most of them are old people, we'll just wait for them to die off? Do you say, look, is it possible to reach some hearts and minds? I saw an interesting story today that I think provides maybe a little note of optimism here. Louisiana was another one of these red states that was, very adamantly anti-vax. I mean, I think the governor, Edwards, is a Democrat.
He's a Democrat. He's a conservative Democrat.
Exactly. Yeah. But nobody was listening to him about, in terms of getting the vaccination and all that. Now, because the rates of infection and illness and death have really skyrocketed, now they're seeing a major spike in vaccinations down there. So it looks like people are finally getting the message, at least in one state. You're shaking your head, Angela. Please respond. I read this. I didn't make it up. It's in the.
No, yeah, I think it's that's what's been going on.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. You can't make this up. You just can't, especially in the South. You really can't. I mean, the things that, like, Louisiana is one state, Georgia, Mississippi, the things that are coming out of those states in terms of anti-vaccine, and then also, the mask, and just simple things that most people probably will be common sense. The fact that they're trying to oppose because they feel that you're infringing on their rights, just goes to show I'm very much an advocate for education. Like, really, like, it's important. We need education.
They need an education.
Oh my God, because some of the things that is coming and people are believing simple stuff because of propaganda and stuff. We talked about that, so many different times. But the fact that they're believing stuff without actually going to research on their own and seeing if it's true, that's the part that's really, really scary. And for me, I connected to a lot to religion, and especially in the South with, Southern Baptists and all of that. If the pastor says it, it's law. And as opposed
to pastors are political.
And the pastors are pouring this stuff into their congregations. And like, there was one video, there's this one pastor who said, if people come into the assembly with masks on, he's going to put them out and ask them to leave. So it's that type of stuff that they're weaponizing God for a lot of their stuff because they themselves don't want to do it. They don't want to believe that science is legit. Science is very real. But there's been people that are saying, God is going to protect us. Then 5 months or so later, they're in their deathbed, and then you get a video that says, I should have listened. Don't do what I did. No.
Changing the topic a little bit, but all that. Phil, there's a report that came out yesterday or the day before yesterday about Andrew Cuomo. And this was a bombshell. Andrew Cuomo last year was a star for the press conferences that he was giving about COVID. He won an Emmy for that. And
he won an Emmy?
Yeah. And I don't know whether
news and public affairs programming. Yeah.
Yes. I used to listen. I used to basically at 11 o'clock sit over there in front of my TV. It was entertainment.
Yeah.
And as I always say, when you're at the top of the world, you're just about to go deep into the ocean. And so I don't know whether he's on his last legs, but this was a damning report, and I don't know whether it is political as he says, but the interesting thing to connect it to all that you've been saying is that it is the liberals who want him out.
Yeah.
They want him out because they think that he has been very conservative, but he's also been very difficult to deal with. And because it has to do with sex, because he has a lieutenant governor who is a female, they don't feel that they're losing a lot. What do you have to say about this? It's a very complicated situation.
Well, it is. Listen, I mean, I think Cuomo is another guy who, he dug his own grave on this. I mean, I tend to be kind of, when it comes to sexual harassment allegations against public figures, I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. It's like, when that crazy woman came in last year and accused Biden, I said, wait a minute, let's hear a little more. And fortunately, we did hear a little more, realize what a wingnut she was, and, and he stayed in the race. Here in New York City, we had the mayoral campaign where one of the candidates, Mr. Stringer, was also accused by one woman of sexual harassment 30 years ago. And it seemed a little ambiguous, but then apparently another woman came out and made a similar claim, and that pretty much sunk him. And I think, as a rule of thumb, if more than one woman comes out, you really, really have to pay attention. I mean, every woman should be heard, but I think the more people come out, the more you cannot turn your head and say that it's all BS and so forth. And in this case, you had at least 11 credible, detailed allegations against Cuomo, and maybe some others that weren't, in the official report, but that came out there. And I think, this is part of his personality also. I mean, he is this is hard charging, or if you will, a bully, a guy who really likes to be abusive and thinks this is the way to get things done. And it was kind of funny that some of the women even claimed that they didn't necessarily mind his, making sexual comments or whatnot, because at least it was a break from him screaming at them and insulting them. So it's like, okay, you just want to say I have a nice butt. Okay, that's fine. At least you're not telling me how stupid and incompetent I am. I do, but I want to, I want to second what you said, that one reason many progressives are not going to miss him at all is that, and it's not just that, another Democrat and a woman is going to succeed him when he drops out, and that, somebody else will probably get the nomination in 24, and the best the Republicans have to offer right now is Giuliani's son. So Andrew Giuliani is running for the Republican nomination for New York governor. I am not making this up.
Are you serious?
No, I am not. No, I'm not. This is a guy whose entire professional experience is apparently he was a professional golfer, although not the kind of guy who usually made the cut in any major tournament. and he worked in Trump's White House. And that
I remember him, Phil. I remember him when he was a kid, and Giuliani was having issues. And then the idea was, was he going with the mom or was it going to be with Giuliani? And that was 2000 or something. He was still a kid. And now that he wants to be governor, and the only experience is that he's Giuliani's son, and he made an announcement near some I don't know, but how is that going to work?
But okay, getting back to Cuomo though, no, it is very true that many progressives had a problem with him. I've been one of his constituents for 10 years, and I was continually ticked off that the way he always seemed to kind of like backpedal or put the brakes on liberal initiatives that and in the legislature too. And it wasn't until the Democrats got control of both houses of the legislature in 2018, plus the fact that when Cynthia Nixon, the actress, ran against him in the 2018 primary, that kind of pushed him to the left because, at the end of the day, he's a pragmatic politician and he knew, okay, this is what I have to do to stay in power. But he was a Clinton Democrat, a pro-business Democrat. He worked, for Clinton in the White House. And he really, he made a big deal about, we've passed gay rights laws and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but economic justice was always on the back burner with him. There were a lot of things that people didn't like about that. The thing, though, the one thing that intrigues me, though, that I think, was worth exploring here is that the fact that he did have this, hard driving style, there's always a sense, I think, especially among some Democrats, including liberal Democrats, that, we like a guy like that. We don't like it when conservatives call us like, wimpy and soft and all that. And, you always look back to the days of the Kennedys, especially Bobby Kennedy, who, was a progressive, but he was a take no prisoners progressive, He was always accused of being ruthless and, power hungry and all that. And I think there's a sneaking sentiment among many liberals. We don't want to admit this, but we don't mind having a guy, who will kick ass once in a while. And I think
for our own benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to some degree, I think Cuomo kind of exploited that. It was like, he's got sharp elbows, but, at the end of the day, he's a Democrat. He's relatively progressive and all that. And we need a guy like that. Not everybody can be, like kind of Michael Dukakis up there. We want guys who really know how to get things done. Blah, blah, blah. Well, you see, if you want that kind of guy, sometimes you have to take what comes with it. And we're seeing the outgrowth of that. That's the
thing. It reminds me of a Spitzer. You remember? You remember that guy? Elliot Spitzer.
Who? Oh, Spitzer. Yeah, Spitzer was the same way. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was another take no prisoners guy. Right. A previous governor. And he had the same style. They said the same things about him. Angela, do you remember that story?
A little bit. No, refresh my memory.
Well, he was a previous governor. He was elected in 2006, Democrat, progressive, and the same stories about him that, he's tough. He sometimes yells at his aides, but he gets things done. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years into his term, it was found out that he was a regular customer of several high-class call girls.
Yes,
and he had to drop out. So, So, it's like, I don't know. Is there a way to kind of be a tough guy in politics and not have these scandals? I guess, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
And aren't scandals the way of politics anyway? Like everybody has a back closet somewhere.
Yeah. Well, if people are thinking that he could be running for president, actually, he was being talked as somebody who could be, basically challenge the current Vice President Kamala Harris to the nomination. So he's gone. He's basically gone. I don't think he's going to do much after that. But let me not say that, because he also has a playbook. What is a playbook? Rely on Black people.
Well,
because he could have gone a long time ago, but he had Black support from early this year. And so people said, okay, forget about that. Let him, he's going to survive. And actually he was surviving if it had not been for this report. So this report has been his undoing. And Tish James, who is the Attorney General, and he believes that Tish James wants to be governor. which I don't think is true, because if you really, I moved in to the suburbs, and I've seen the suburbs is not the city, and it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for Tish James to get votes in upstate New York. You cannot win without votes in upstate New York.
Yeah. I got a question, and I'm not a New Yorker or anything, but I want to go back to this Andrew Giuliani. Really? Why are we even the family name? The father is like really just messed up the family name. Why are we even looking at the son right now?
Well, first of all, there's a story out that the father is going bankrupt because he has no money left.
And so, Trump is distancing himself from him.
Go ahead, Phil.
No, I mean, okay. Other than his being basically delusional, I think what it is that once again, you have this echo chamber going on in the Republican Party where it's like, he will talk to he will go on Fox News and they will say what a great guy he is, what a great guy his father was, and yeah, you go get him, Andrew, and blah blah, and he'll believe it, and he'll think that represents the majority of New York State voters. I mean, it is true there are Republicans, especially upstate and out on Long Island, outside of the city, and they will not vote for a Democrat, but they are clearly in the minority in the state. And I guess, a combination of the praise he's getting from Fox and whatever, and the sense of, well, we know our people are out there. Now we just have to reach some other people somewhere, makes him think that he has a chance. I mean, it's, people will tell themselves anything, and they'll always find somebody to enable them and spit it right back and say, yeah, you go, guy. Yeah. So.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. It has been one of the most spirited discussions, and I loved it. I hope you also loved it. So please don't forget to subscribe, to download, and to share.